Now, recently we've seen some very interesting comments from Noah Lyles. Now, Noah Lyles, for those that don't know and haven't been, privy to the most recent news and the quote that he had that is so infamous to this point, he has won 3 gold medals in the track and field world championships in Budapest, Hungary this past week. Now, he was the champion in the 100 and 200 meter dash, along with the relay. When asked about being a part of that and being capable to put himself to that point and the difference between track world championships like himself and American pro sports leagues for the most part, he had this to say. You know, the thing that hurts me the most is that I have to watch the NBA finals and they have world championship on their head. World championship of what? The United States? That's a whole lot to unpack. But first, gotta do the intro. Welcome back to another video, guys. It's your boy Wraith Hoops, and we've got something spicy. For those that didn't know that quote beforehand, I'm glad that I was the first person to tell you. Now, the issue is, while he is technically right, Kevin Durant was one of those main people that was critical of this, putting out on Twitter, somebody help this brother. You also had PJ Tucker on the 76ers saying you can't make this up. Kendrick Perkins, everybody's favorite commentator these days, said put his brain in a bird and the bird will fly backwards, which is something crazy to say. Admittedly, you can't have another take without Austin Rivers having something to say because he feels qualified to comment on literally anything basketball related. And he said, winning an NBA championship qualifies as world champs, which sounds innocent enough. But he went on to say that he didn't know what was more cringe, Lyles' comment or his voice and delivery, which I find to be kind of petty considering that Lyles, while being hyped up on the moment and enjoying the fact that he was the champion at his events, obviously track and field being just more individually based accolades, unless you're in a relay team, which consists of 4 people, it just made sense for him to say what he said. And he was technically right. So for Austin Rivers to say what he said seems a little underhanded and just unrelated to the topic at hand. I say that because, as I explained, him winning 3 gold medals, that's not easy to do. Most people can't win 1. And that means he is the best person at his event in the globe, something Austin Rivers has never been. Now, I do personally understand where Lyles was coming from. It does make sense considering the fact that when you're in the NBA, you're on a team full of probably 15 players, you have a coaching staff, you have all these different things going on, and you're representing a specific city. And more so if you're in a small market team like, say, the Utah Jazz or the Charlotte Hornets, you are also the team essentially of your state, and whatever surrounding areas do not have a team of their own. When you put on your uniform to go to the Olympics or in FIBA events, you're going for your country, which means you're going against every other country that is allowed to participate and capable of participating and has somebody good enough to put in those events. And then you have to go against the best of the best in the prelims, and then another time in the finals to finally decide who deserves to be at the podium, first, second, and third. And that's as plain and simple as it gets. My issue with it, and the reason why I do understand that NBA players are having an issue with it, is the fact that when you're in the NBA, that is a league that everybody aspires to be at. Everybody expects that one day their dreams will lead them to the NBA. There's not very many basketball players that will sit there and pass up the opportunity to play in the NBA. You can't necessarily say that about leagues across the world. Even the EuroLeague players would like to play in the NBA. There's more money, more notoriety, more deals as far as endorsements go. It just makes like the most sane business decision that you could have, whether it be for a personal brand standpoint or just to play against the best players. Because whether most people want to admit it or not, Team USA is the best team currently in the FIBA World Championships. Operating under that assumption, we also have to entertain the part that they were not the last time it rolled around. You saw Spain end up taking home the gold. So if he wanted to use that as the grounds for him saying what he said, it would make sense. However, most players and critics that have seen his quote don't believe that he comes from that point of view. They think he's just hyped up on adrenaline, and some of them sat there and said, whatever he's on, basically, I need whatever drugs he's smoking or taking. It just goes to show how full of yourself you can be at a certain point when you've put in the work to play at the NBA level. Admittedly, like I said earlier, the NBA team that we put together as the culmination to create Team USA has become so strong and capable that most people sat there and said, even though we don't have the LeBrons, the KDs, the Stephen Currys, the Giannis's, they still expected us to be an okay team. They expected us to lose again after we just lost to Spain. But Austin Reeves, Anthony Edwards and company, along with Jalen Brunson and the rest of them, said, that's not how this works. With Steve Kerr as their head coach, they went out there and they've been handling business to their credit. Now, they did have a couple close games, but they always end up playing close at ear at the halftime and then just outplaying teams down the stretch just because of the depth of the roster that we are capable of putting together. Other teams don't have NBA tier talent beyond, maybe the first player, second player, maybe if you're good, your top four. But every starter in the FIBA World Championships cannot play in the NBA. And we're seeing that because you have teams like Canada that are blowing teams out. And Canada, while they do have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and RJ Barrett, they're not necessarily constructed of even elite NBA talent from their top starting five. Looking at other teams like Latvia and the Japans of the world and everywhere else, they do have great talent. These are some of the best basketball players in the world. But it's tough to deal with people that play basketball like NBA players do because NBA ball is completely different from overseas ball. They're more athletic. They run less plays and a lot more ISO action. There's a lot more one player showing you that he's him every time the ball touches his hands, because that's what a superstar is. When you look at superstars in other leagues, they don't average as many points. They don't average as many rebounds. They don't average as many assists. They have different roles. They have different play calls, and they adhere to them. And it's a lot more about out-coaching the other team's coach. In the NBA, that's really only a problem once you get to the finals and to the conference finals. Before that, in the regular games, it's about who has the most talent, whose superstars or star players or all-star caliber players are going to outplay the opposing teams on a night-in, night-out basis and just going head-to-head and getting the job done. Greg Popovich back in 2010 had this to say: "It doesn't make sense for an NBA team to call themselves the world champions. I don't remember anybody playing outside of our borders to get that tag." And admittedly, credit to Greg Popovich back then, he was ahead of the curve. Now you have Noah Lyles making his comment about there being no flags in the NBA, which, fair enough, there's not even state flags in arenas, really. So it makes sense that they are the champions of the USA. Now this entire thing gets squashed should Team USA handedly win the FIBA World Championships this year. Now we do know that Spain was the last team to take home the gold, so the US has to kind of get back. And even without the top tier players, like I said, the A rank and S rank players of the league, they're still handling business pretty smoothly. Evan Fournier was also asked about this. He does play for Team France, and he said, if you participate in the World Cup or even in the Olympics and you win, you have the right to call yourself world champions. The way I look at it is NBA champions, it's just a title. And at the end of the day, that is the biggest takeaway of this entire thing. It's just a title. You want to make sure that you're at the top of your respective league, and it makes sense for NBA champions to be champions of the US, but champions of the world might be a little bit of an overstatement. The only reason we've been able to get away with it for so long is because Team USA has been just so dominant over every other team they've played in any out-of-country experience. And the thing is, you're kind of the boss until somebody who can handle you tells you you're not the boss. So under that assumption and under that understanding, what Noah Lyles says is factually accurate. However, Team USA has time in and time out handled business outside of its borders. So you can assume that the strongest team in the globe is going to come from the US. And I think that it would be interesting if maybe, don't shoot me, but maybe after the NBA finals occurred, there was some sort of tournament similar to the FIBA championships or the Olympics where the top teams from, say, the past couple FIBA tournaments and the world champions and the past couple Olympics, whatever top teams that made it out of pool play and played in that tournament to make the finals, I would like to see them all play against each other. But instead of Team USA, have the NBA champions. That would quiet it out right there. And if the top NBA team, who's not even composed of the best players in the NBA, depth-wise, can handle business, then I think it puts the entire story to rest. But you guys tell me what you guys think about it. With that being said, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in to this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.